Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we're speaking about technology. Using social media, using internet, using technology is always talked about in a negative connotation. But obviously it has its benefits. You know, you can use a knife to cut an apple. You can use it to poke somebody that you shouldn't be poking.
I guess that's true, but there's always this fear of the bad outweighing the good. Like screens, even if it's not in their hand, they're just everywhere, and just technology is advancing. I mean, of course, it's advancing. Wow.
I mean, phones are getting smaller, internet's getting faster, kids are getting older, and it's a parent's responsibility to really create the parameters of what they find acceptable in the home, and hopefully it translates to good choices that they will make as adults. But you can't always control your kids, but you can control what you give them while you are their guardian. You know, so some of the things that we do is we know doing homework on the computer is part of life now. Most parents will have kids who have to type an essay or do research for a project. So, what do you do in that case? You know, the worst things that I've seen personally as a principal is that parents have personalized iPads for their children, right? That irks me to the core. Why do you have a dedicated screen for your child? They know it's theirs and they become possessive of it. They're registering this notion in their mind that it is mine. So that when you take it away, you're taking something away from me, right? You're not taking something back that you let me use for a little while. So one thing that I always tell parents that come into my office, I'm like, hey, if your child has their own personal device, you know, try to undo that in some way. And if you're considering getting one for them that's only theirs, reconsider. Don't give it to them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's like a no-brainer for me. Like that's not even like a point of discussion, and it's not
All right,
judgment.
we'll edit that one out. We'll edit that one out.
It's not judgment to
I
those
just
who
made
have
useless commentary.
because I do know that some kids may need something like for that, but that's just that's situational. But on the general, it's like yeah, that's unnecessary. Your own phone, I think that goes along the same lines. Like yeah, there's safety things. I know that's used a lot as like, oh, safety. Like I need to know where my kid is, or with the amount of, unfortunate events that happen at schools, like I need to know if my kid is safe. But I feel like in the moment you're still gonna be worried regardless.
Yeah,
if
and you're still gonna be
and
far away, and so
exactly.
they should be able to. Like in Texas, there's a law. Like in high school and middle school, students are not allowed to have phones, which is interesting. I didn't realize that until a couple months ago. I think there is this worry of like, where is my child? And there's a lot. Maybe there's more activity nowadays that you have to leave your kid somewhere for an after-school program or a
always
weekend
been
thing.
there. I think
But it's
it's just
always
like
been the case,
that,
right?
again, it goes back to one of the things that I know everybody knows. I like to talk about so much. It's like your community that you're building. So if I'm dropping my kid off to soccer practice, I should be able to hit up any mom and be like, hey, I'm running late. Can you pick up my kid? Or like just let my kid know, like, hey, she's going to be late. But if I never talk to another mom, then yeah, I'm going to have to like give my kid the phone to keep them updated.
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of felt like I wish whenever we dropped any of them at soccer practice, I just wish there was a way to communicate with them directly. But
Why?
it's convenient, it's quick.
Yeah, so it's about convenience. That is one of the other things. It's like convenient. We want everything to be convenient. I know we get sometimes we want to go to the restaurant. It's convenient to give the phone to just shut up, and we can eat in peace, and that's okay. Sometimes that's totally normal and fine because we have the devices that we have, but it is about convenience.
Convenience aside, when we're talking about safety, if you use technology to make things more safe, I think that's a good decision. But you have to remember, the drawbacks of giving your kids a
I
personal
mean,
device.
what's gonna change at soccer practice for safety? Like, oh, they got hurt. Well, the coaches are supposed to already have my phone number anyway. They'll call me if something happens.
Yeah, I mean, lots of hypothetical situations there, but I don't know. You tell us. Do you give your preteen a cell phone,
And
or
now, right now, Facebook and Instagram and all of that is getting sued because they want preteens to be hooked onto their social media platforms because then there's a longer rate of involvement in that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
And then I wonder if I am also one of them who got duped because we've been using Facebook. I think I've never deactivated my Facebook so much. So every time there's like those, what's it called when there's a lawsuit? Like a lot of people get the money from that.
yeah, class action.
Class action. I've made class action money from Facebook because I never deactivated it ever since I opened it in 11th grade.
Yeah, and we know they're just constantly collecting data on you. They can scan your retina and see which part of the screen you're looking at. I mean, it's all to market to you, but there's this intense data collection that's happening, and it's been happening for a couple decades now, and it's only getting worse.
I mean, it's documented that they play a role in elections, and I think
and not just in America, but everywhere
exactly.
in the world.
Yeah, and it's like they're open about it. It's not even like a conspiracy theory, and I think that it's so much more important to talk to kids, especially as they get to preteen and teen ages, because they're still gonna use technology, right? So how do you help them be smart about it, and not just about personal usage of like what are you sharing, but how are you consuming, right?
When I was growing up, I always wondered, why do we have to learn math if we basically have calculators to produce the answers, right?
Yeah.
How am I really going to use this in real life? But exercising your brain is as important as exercising your heart and your muscles.
That's true. And so I think that's a great point, because now then are our kids exercising their brain less?
They are.
Because there is that convenience and ease, and because that's there, yeah. Like,
I think not just our kids, but we ourselves are exercising our brains less as adults. And depending on how much you watch TV and how many apps you have downloaded, you are spending more time in technology and less time in real life, which can be detrimental. So a little bit of a balance is really important. For kids, I don't think they need to have their personal devices. If they're doing homework at home or doing research, let's say, it should be out in the open. But that becomes a little bit of a challenge, when they had a long day. They want to relax and rest and kind of lean on their couch or whatever. I think the best practice is having like a table and a desktop, and it's facing, everybody. That just helps them stay focused, aside from protecting them from, going on tangents.
That's for everybody in the family. I think that's, the things that they talk about of how our screen smart family is that you don't apply those rules only to the kids, right? And I speak to myself first because I know I have a phone addiction, and that was my goal this Ramadan, to like be off of it by like listening to a lecture. So if I'm listening to something and it's like away on the counter, I won't be like scrolling. But I don't know if I was successful. And this is another attempt that I have in helping myself, is that even today I had a really rough day, but I was like looking forward to this little time that like I'm gonna be able to do this. And then in the week, take time intentionally to work on something, and that be that my timed screen time versus let me get a little bit now, and then it's like a little bit of nothing the whole day. And it's really hard now that I'm at home and I have someone at home. It's just like, she doesn't really get it if I'm watching something, but she does, right?
She
like,
definitely does.
She pretends every little rectangle thing is a phone, right? Like, she'll just like have her doll and a phone. And I'm like, that's embarrassing. So for me, this is a step to help myself, like, because I do need some kind of outlet. And I think that I don't want to be like technology averse or anything like that. I think there's so many benefits of technology.
Yeah, technology is not all that bad. It has helped me find answers to questions I would have to wait weeks, maybe months to figure out. It has helped me get motivated at times. It's comforted me at times, and it has inspired me often. And so, on TikTok there was this feature, I think there was like a STEM tab.
Yeah.
And it was like in China, kids have these parameters It's only educational content. And I would sometimes go on the STEM tab and scroll. Now I don't have TikTok for obvious reasons. But when I did, and I would go on the STEM tab, oh, it was actually pretty good content. However, we're just, again, it is a form of entertainment at the end of the day. If you want to learn something, you have to use your hands, you have to meet with people, you have to have conversation. I think it's more meaningful that way, and you retain and remember information like that. But watching something, it could intrigue you.
Something I read recently, or maybe watched, I don't know, was that we have this pressure of being in touch with so many more people now because it's accessible, right? I can reach out to people that I know from high school, from all the places that I've lived, and I have a way to stay in touch with them in 1 second on my phone, right? And so it's like, okay, even when you say Eid Mubarak to people, like, it's not just the people you see, because you're going to message everybody pretty much you ever knew in your life, right? Versus my parents, for example, like 30 years ago, they're going to write a letter to somebody that they may have known a long time ago. They're going to call somebody. They're not going to call everybody that they know. That's just not the access that you had. So that's another level of burden, not burden, but like a level of like pressure, right? Oh, did I message so-and-so? I haven't been in touch with so-and-so. And that also takes up a lot of my time, I feel like. But I think what I want to try to do maybe is send an email instead, right? Because in text, you're like wanting a response soon, right? Like text should be more like, hey, you want to meet up right now? Or what are you doing? And I'm actually like going to be talking to that person soon. Versus if I'm just like, hey, how's your kid doing? And that somebody I haven't talked to for a long time. Maybe I could email them instead. Yeah. So they can take their time to respond. I can write a longer email. They get all the information they need, and they can respond with that instead of a back and forth right in that minute.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were thinking of going back in time a little bit, just to slow things down, because I think the speed at which things are moving, our connections are losing their substance. Shouldn't be pressured into talking to people, but genuinely carve out the time to spend with people. And you can't spend time with everybody, and that's the thing. So your priority is your family, your priority are your kids, if you have kids, and before even your kids is yourself. So how are you and doing with technology? Is it pulling you away from things that you really need to get done? Which is regular household chores, important things, goals that you set for yourself, your relationship with your faith, all those things. I think sometimes take the back burner at the mercy of our screen addiction. And when we look back at the data, a really cool company that I really like is the Center for Humane Technology, and this is a podcast that I listened to. It was talking about how the way that the swipe mechanism works, it mimics a slot machine. So it's a lot like gambling, and there's addiction involved, and there are these dopamine hits and this instant gratification that we're looking at. There's also, this desire to be viewed and liked and shared, which needs to be controlled, and we need to detach ourselves from that. And that's our greatest fear. As we're raising our young children, as they grow up, are they going to be dependent on what people think about them online? Many times, people they will never meet, or in this day and age, are not even real. And imagine that someone is targeting your child to get them addicted. There's already a current lawsuit going on. Now imagine what the future looks like when they're targeting children that they have data on from when they were 6, 7, 8 years old, and now they're 23, and it's meddling in their lives, right? So it's important. I think the key here is education. So as long as our children are educated and knowing what all is happening, they'll be able to see that. That's number one. Number two, I think that we as a society have a responsibility to set up guardrails. So there has to be rules and regulations, just like there are laws against monopolies and at XYZ, whatever you can think of. There are no rules around the internet at all.
And in particular in the United States, more so, just like everything else for some reason. Like there's less controls on food and this and that. Some countries have a age limit where you can join things, and you have an ID that give, like, each child has an ID. They had to put that number in like we would if you had a driver's license to verify your age to join certain websites and things like that. We don't. We just have the honor system. Are you 18 or not?
Yeah.
And you can click yes I am at 10.
Yeah.
Right? And nothing happens.
And I think I kind of like that we have freedom in general, but if you don't have involved parents, then the children are in danger. So the burden is more on parents. Even if you have involved parents, then the burden comes on parents when tech companies don't practice ethical
Yeah,
behavior.
and I think if you're gonna put some more responsibility on parents, it's also that you as a group of friends or your circle have this conversation of what we're gonna do. And I think sometimes it's uncomfortable because people have different views on things, but I think right now is a turning point where we can all see some of the blatant ways that they are using data from other countries that are also mimicked here. And that's a great place to start that conversation, because I may say no to my child, but then if everybody in their class is not doing that, it's really annoying. And it's really hard to parent when it's like that. So having some kind of conversation with your circles of like, what are our standards? What are we gonna do when we're all getting together for lunch? Is it okay if like half the kids are on their phone, or even if it's 2 kids bringing the phone into a circle of 7 kids? Is that okay?
Either you have that conversation and you see how it goes. I would just recommend that if you run into the roadblock, just don't hang out with them. That's just my 2 cents, because technology is so dangerous. It's akin to addiction and drugs and gambling, and you have to be super careful. So protect your squad. They come first, and then I am sure you will find like-minded people who are going to be able to set their phone aside when children are there, whatever the case may be. And that doesn't mean you are totally anti-tech. You're just intentional.
I think there's definitely so much good information, but it just gets shuffled into a lot of garbage. So I think that when you are limiting yourself to, and this, you can take food for example. There's so many good foods, but there's also so much garbage food. So if you are sticking to a certain diet, you're like, I'm not gonna eat excess sugars, for example, then you have a plan and you're being intentional. Similarly, if I'm like, I'm going on the internet for this 45 minutes to come up with these 5 things that I need to do this week, then I'm being intentional. And so you can skip the garbage a little bit quicker. But I think all that takes, just like food, takes discipline. And that's really hard.
And I think we have to remember, what I teach students is that you have to remember someone owns the technology, whether it's the Samsung phone or the iPad or Facebook or Roblox, whatever it is that you're using, someone owns it, and that someone and those group of people and investors make very important decisions that affect your psyche. And I want to give you a tangible example. When you go to the grocery store, someone owns a grocery store. They put the milk all the way in the back, because we know everyone needs to buy milk, eggs, and bread. So those things are far away. And on the way to the milk, eggs, bread, there are all these processed foods with high sugar content that are very addictive and sell. And so they have the data on what sells the most, and they put that in front of you first. And so for you to find good educational content, you have to kind of dig. And then the algorithm is really trying to suck you back into a different portal based on your age, your gender, what you have liked, what you laughed at, where your eyes were on which part of the screen, and all of that's being collected. So it's quite a bit more dangerous than we realize. And I think education is going to free us from making really bad decisions. That doesn't mean that we totally give it all up. We put good content to, balance out the negative content out there. And
I think that's important too. Like, everybody who's consuming should also be creating in some way. I think that kind of helped balance the garbage, like, because you may have something to share that's valuable to somebody, and because there's so much other stuff, and even if there's censorship and stuff like that, like, it's still important to put something out there.
Yeah, I think it's a contribution to the internet universe that has billions of users, and I think it's good. Don't be a consumer, be a creator.
Maybe this is where you start that conversation with your kids, depending on their age. Is like, what are we doing about technology? What do you know about technology, and how do you feel about AI and things like that? Kids are smarter than we think, and so starting conversations sooner is probably helpful.
Who knows?
We don't know.
We'll take it one day at a time. See ya.